Hello, I'm Kimberly and welcome to the weekend edition of the Nave News Update. It's Friday, December 11th. Many of the stories you hear here can be found at IndianCountryTV.com. And here's the news for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has promised an inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women in an appeal to First Nation chiefs. The newly elected leader said the public inquiry would be top priority of the Liberal government. He called for a total renewal of the relationship between Canada and the First Nations people. Trudeau also promised increased funding for programming, education, and a review of laws on Indigenous peoples. He says he is committed to implementing suggestions of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, including an implementation of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The Montana Law Enforcement Academy graduated 53 officers from 30 law enforcement agencies from across the state of Montana. 13 of the graduates are Native American, and the most from any basic class in the Academy's history. The 13 tribal students represent 5 agencies. Blackfeet Law Enforcement has 5, Fort Peck Tribes Law and Justice has 2, Crow Land Security has 1, Fort Belknap Law Enforcement has 3, and Flathead Tribal Law Enforcement has 2. The Montana Law Enforcement Academy is operated by the Montana Department of Justice. It provides basic and advanced training for state, county, city, and tribal law enforcement officers statewide. Without Lucy Covington, there would probably be no Colville Confederated Tribes and no Eastern Washington Reservation for the 12 bands that make up the Confederation. Some other reservations in the United States might be gone too, and their tribal members scattered. Covington, whose name will be on the new Center for Native American Students at Eastern Washington University in Cheney, Washington, rose from a reluctant candidate for the Colville Tribal Business Council to a nationally recognized leader for Indian rights and sovereignty, and an advocate who had the ear of powerful members of Congress. Along the way, she encouraged young Native American men and women to stay in school to get the kind of education they'd need to be future leaders. She led the fight against a federal policy called termination, which offered members of Native American tribes cash payments in exchange for their reservation lands, and she won. Ben Nighthorse Campbell, Korean War veteran, Olympic athlete, and former Colorado politician, is honoring the service of his fellow Native American military veterans by helping to oversee the creation of a national memorial in their honor. In 2013, Congress passed legislation approving the development of a Native American Veterans Memorial on the site of the National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C. Efforts are now underway to make the legislative goal a reality. Campbell, who served 3 terms in the House of Representatives and 2 terms in the U.S. Senate, was named, along with Chickasaw Nation Lieutenant Governor Jefferson Keel, as co-chairman of the advisory committee overseeing the memorial's construction earlier this year. Campbell said the process would likely take about 5 years as advisory committee and museum leaders work with veterans and tribes to develop a theme, design, and the necessary funding to construct the memorial. The goal is to raise at least $10 million. 42 years ago, Christopher Cardozo discovered the works of Edward S. Curtis, whose photographs, text, film footage, and sound recordings focus on Native American population and their way of life. Cardozo has been collecting Curtis' work ever since, and today he has over 4,000 of Curtis's photographic prints, the largest collection in the world. Edward S. Curtis' 100 Masterworks is Cardozo's 9th monograph on Curtis and includes a selection of what Cardozo believes as Curtis's best images. The photo book also serves as the catalog for a traveling exhibition set to continue until December 2016. Despite the fact that Curtis's images were taken more than 100 years ago, they have managed to endure. Cardozo believes they have a great importance and significance in the modern-day world. And that's another roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Nave News Update. I'd like to thank you for joining me, and have a grand day.